Mrs. Rogers. I wondered if you by any chance had a son who could have lost a baseball glove.
I'm holding this line open for a very emergency telephone message coming in. I can only talk to you very, very briefly.
I'm sorry. I thought
I'm
a baseball
housekeeper.
glove.
I'm the housekeeper here, but I'm holding this line open for an emergency call, but I'll take just a moment. You're Mrs. Rogers from where?
Newkirk Estates. Do you live anywhere around here?
Newkirk Estates?
Yes.
No, I don't live in Newkirk Estates at all.
Okay, well,
and
I
the homeowners who have this telephone number that you have called do not live in Newkirk Estates either.
Well, I don't think it would be you then. I found a baseball glove that has a phone number written in it that's kind of worn off, and it looks like it was your number. I just called them, see
what
if I could...
What number is written in the baseball glove?
It looks like 737... 2392.
Yes, that is the number in the baseball glove.
Yep.
And it probably is some legal evidence, and I suggest that you hang on to it. It's probably some valuable legal evidence in connection with matters. And you're Mrs. Rogers from Newkirk Estates, and you reside at what address out there?
Can you tell me what this concerns?
Well,
I just found the glove laying across the street from my house, and I want to return it to the boy. That's all I'm interested in.
You want to return it to the boy?
Yes.
I see. Well, we're over in a different area, and you found a baseball glove in Newkirk Estates, and it has this telephone number in it again.
It looks like that phone number. It's worn in that spot, but I already called one other number. It looks like it could be 3392 also.
It looks like it could be what?
It looks like it might even be 3392, but I called that number, and that's not right.
And you think the number, to the best of your knowledge and belief, the telephone number that is in this baseball bat looks like, read that number off again, please, so that we don't make no mistake.
It could be 2392, or it could be, I'm sitting here looking at it. The second number is very worn. The last two numbers are definitely 92.
Yeah.
But the first two I'm not positive of. I'm calling different ones to see if I can get this glove back to the boy.
Well, I think you've got the right telephone exchange to a certain degree. There is a certain degree. I can help you here. I'm the housekeeper here. What I was going to say is that the first three digits, is that 737, the first three digits?
It looks like it's 737.
And it's a baseball mitt.
Glove, yes.
A glove, and now it's Newkirk Estates.
Yeah,
well, I'll tell you what, there's possibility that somebody from another area who might play baseball with somebody in that area, it might be that somebody from another area who plays out there lost the baseball glove, you say. And it's possible that the number you see there may be exactly the correct number that you have called. It may be that the number that you're talking to now is the exact number to be reached in connection with it, but your theory as to who it belongs to, I can help you there. If somebody from our area was playing with somebody at Newkirk Estates, the residents of this telephone number do not live out there in Newkirk Estates at all. However, somebody from another area could be playing in that area and leave the baseball mitt, and they could leave the telephone number in the mitt. Now, the telephone number in the mitt is just a telephone number of somebody that knows this particular telephone number. The telephone number in the mitt is not the telephone number of the owners of the baseball mitt. You follow?
It isn't?
No. I could give you the background on it. The telephone number that you got in the baseball mitt is not the telephone number of the people who own the baseball mitt.
Okay.
But the telephone number that you got in the baseball mitt is a telephone number that people from another development who might know people in Newkirk Estates, that telephone number is a number known to other people in the state of Delaware, and the number's been written down and put in the baseball mitt so that they would have it handy in the baseball mitt, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that telephone number is connected with the owner of the baseball mitt. You follow what I mean?
Slightly.
Hardly?
Slightly.
Slightly. Well, it sounds rather confusing.
Yeah.
It sounds rather confusing.
Yeah, well,
and I could help you further. I could help you further with this analysis if I had certain specific information in order to help you find the owners of the baseball mitt. I could help you further if I could just take a split second. As I say, I was holding this line open for an emergency telephone call, but I'll take another split second. I have to get this other call coming in. But I'll take another split second to help you find it. You found the mitt on your property or in the street?
I found it. That we have an open space of property across the street from our house, and 2 weeks ago the county put playground equipment there,
Yeah.
directly across the street from my house,
Yeah.
and that's where the glove was found.
You found the glove on playground. You found it on county highway property, or you found it on your own private property, or
I
you
found
found it
it-
on highway property in the street?
Found it on the county property, playground property, across the street from my house.
Oh, you found it on county playground property across the street from your house in Newkirk Estates. Well,
Right.
what that means is that somebody who knows this particular telephone number comes from another area, not from Newkirk Estates at all. He comes from another area. He goes out and plays baseball on that county property adjacent to Newkirk Estates.
Right.
And he comes in from an entirely different area than Newkirk Estates, and the telephone number is on the baseball bat, on this baseball mitt that you have, means that that telephone number in there is a number that child carries around, and he wants that number handy for some particular personal reason, you say.
I understand. Well, usually most boys write their own name and phone number in it for identification, see?
Yeah.
I think there's also a name in it, but that's completely worn off except for the last letter, which is R.
The last letter is R.
Yes, I can't read any more of it.
You mean the last letter of the baseball mitt, the very last letter is R.
Yes,
Well, now that means something to me, but it wouldn't mean anything to you because you'd never be able to get the significance between the last letter of R.
no, well, I'm not really that concerned except for getting the boy's glove back to him because most boys take much pride in this baseball glove.
Yeah, you found it on county property near the Newkirk Estate.
Yes,
And the last digit of a name is R.
yes, that's the
Can you
only
get
one
any
that's
other
clear.
digits of an R? Can you get any other alphabetical lettering in there in that where it says R at the end? Can you get any alphabetical lettering in there at all? Anything at all?
Well,
Even one digit?
all right, I'll tell you, this is a guess, but the last three letters could be T-E-R,
Well, let me think just a minute.
but it's worn.
Just a minute. Let me see. I'm trying. There's a name confidential. I'm just trying to think of it. Just a minute. Let's see. Let me see.
Or it could be E-E-R, you know.
Well, wait till I write it down. I can visualize it. Just a moment. Write a last name down. This is an abstract of conversation between Janice and Joanne sometime recently, but prior to July the 30th, 1971. Mrs. Basham said that they got mad about the peace bond. Now, which family she was referring to, we would have to find out, but I can make my guess. And the other thing is that Mrs. Basham said that she didn't blame Eileen. This is recorded so that we won't forget it. End of quotation. Next abstract. This is recorded after 5:30 p.m. on the evening of Saturday, July the 31st, 1971. End of dictation. Now begin record. This record is taken to see what conspiracy, what further conspiracy can be determined in the matters that we have determined to date. That is the only purpose of taking the record.
Baptist Bible Church, may I help you?
Baptist Bible Church.
Yes.
I'd like to speak to whoever maintains the mailing addresses for literature on the visitor of the Bible Baptist Church.
Good morning, Thorn 2.
I'd like to talk to whoever maintains the mailing address and addresses on people who receive the Visitor of the Baptist Bible Church.
Well, I can take the message and give it to the girl in the shipping department. I usually do. Did you want your name taken off or added?
I want to get the name taken off the newspaper that goes out.
If you hold just for a second till I get a pen, please. Okay.
Now, what is your name, in case I have to contact you again? What is your name?
Well, I'm Mr. Perry's secretary, Mrs. Cox.
Mr. Berry's?
Perry, P-E-R-R-Y.
Oh, you're Mr. Perry's secretary, Mrs. who?
Cox, C-O-X.
Cox?
Right.
C-O-C-K?
C-O-X.
Cox. C-O-X? You're Mrs. Cox?
Right.
And you're going to give this message to whom?
Mrs. Mahaley in the shipping department will take care of it, and she'll do it right away if you'll give me the message, please.
Okay, and how do you spell her name in case I have to get in touch with her?
Why should you need to get in touch with her?
Well, just in case anything further comes up on this, I'll know who to call. You're going to ask somebody else to do it. What is the name of the individual you're going to ask to take care of this? Mrs., I didn't get the name. I'm a little hard of hearing, ma'am. You'll have to speak up loud. I'm very hard of hearing.
Just a moment, please. I'll let you talk with Mr. Perry, all right?
Well, no, I'm calling long distance, and this is costing me money. It's not necessary to transfer me from one place to the other. I'm very hard of hearing, and I'm calling long distance.
Would you give me your name and address, please, and I'll see that it gets taken care of.
Well, we're over in Delaware, and it's costing me money long distance to call.
Well, if you would give me your name, it would only take a couple seconds.
Oh, and you're going to have, who take care of this?
I'll take care of it myself.
Oh, Mrs. Cox is going to take care of it. Well, now, look, ma'am, you know what I'm talking about, don't you? The Visitor of the Bible Baptist Church?
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and this you mail out from Elkton, Maryland?
Right.
And you send it out bulk mail, is that right?
Yes, that's right.
And you mail it to people in Maryland and people in Delaware?
Right.
And you get the addresses either from the telephone book or else somebody else has turned in our name and address.
Right, that's right.
Is there any way to know who submitted the address?
No, I'm afraid not. We mail out over 30,000 visitors each month.
How many?
30,000.
Well, we didn't request this ourselves, and it appears like it might have been taken from a telephone directory. It appears that it might have gotten from a telephone directory, but we didn't submit it ourselves.
Well, if you would give me your name and address, I'll see that it gets taken off today.
You mean you'll be sure that it's taken off your mailing list permanently and forever?
Right.
Yeah. Well, look, we're Methodists, and we don't have the personal time to receive this particular mail. And we have to get it off our mailing list because it is, every time we go to the mailbox, we've got this in the mailbox, and we do not want it coming through the United States mails.
All you need to do is give me your name and address, and it'll be taken care of.
Okay, well, I thank you very much. That's, the name of that is R. You've got it listed as R. Schleifer. S is in Samuel, L-I, F is in Frank, E-R.
Okay.
Did you get that?
Yes, your address.
S is in sugar, L-I, F is in...
Just a moment. Would you talk with Mr. Perry, please?
No, I'm calling long distance, and I don't want to run up my phone bill. That's R. Schleifer, and you're sending it to 333 Tamara, T-A-M-A-R-A.
Hello.
T-A-M-A-R-A, Circle, Harmony Hills, New York, Delaware, 19711. Did you get that address?
Would you give it to me again, please?
333 Tamara, T-A-M-A-R-A, Tamara Circle, Harmony Hills, New York, Delaware, 19711.
And your name, please?
You're taking this off the mailing list. The name is R like in, R. You got that, didn't you? and it looks like it came from a telephone directory listing. It says R. Schleifer, S as in Samuel, L-I, F as in Frank, E-R. There's been a state and county police. The state and county police in Delaware have been eliminating all harassments to this residence for about 6 years. We think this came out of a telephone directory, but there's always a possibility that some individual put in a request that this be sent to our home. We are not Baptists, and we do not want it because we're not Baptists. And we want it off the mailing list, and for 6 or 8 years, about 6 years, our home has been harassed and deluged with all kinds of harassments, and this is the latest harassment, getting us through the mail without our personal request for the same.
I see. Well, we don't consider it harassment, but we'd be very glad to take you off the list.
Well, we happen to know some people who are Baptists, and there's a possibility they may have put us on the mailing list. I don't know. And it is not with our consent and our permission. And it looks like it came out of a telephone directory, the publication. And we have had people who've gotten in our personal mailbox and taken out mail. We've had people who've put frogs in our mailbox, and they've put rocks in our mailbox. They've put animals in our mailbox.
Would you spell your last name again for me, please? S-L-I-F-E-R, is that correct?
No, this is strictly confidential. I'm calling from Delaware, and it's costing me money. The gal I just talked to, I'm sure she got it correct. It's costing me money, long distance to call, which is another harassment to our home, the telephone expense to straighten out things that we do not request. And when people come along and put frogs in the mailbox, rocks in the mailbox...
I'm sorry, ma'am, but we're not putting frogs in your mailbox, and we're not interested in that. We will be glad to take your name off the list, and I believe we've got all the information.
Well, the thing of it is, I noticed that a United States mailman just dropped that off this morning.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I had gotten another one similar to it, and I didn't see who put it in the mailbox.
Well, it came through the mail.
Well, what I was going to say is I saw somebody, people have been getting in our mailbox, putting rocks and frogs and whatnot, and we've had mail missing from our mailbox, and so our mailbox is under scrutiny. We don't let nobody in our mailbox unless he's authorized.
Well, we
had found this in our mailbox a long time ago, and it appeared to be coming through the United States mails. And then after that, this morning, I am positive that the mailman dropped off another copy. So it apparently is being picked up from a telephone directory listing. It appears to be. However, we happen to know some people who are connected with the Baptist Church in Elkton, Maryland, and there's a possibility that they are endeavoring to get us on the mailing list in connection with some personal friendship down in the Maryland area in which we're not the least bit interested.
Well, I guarantee you, I'm in charge of that area, and I will see that your name gets off of it. I do need to know how to spell it.
Well, the other gal took it. The girl that took the telephone call, she's already got it. You intercepted the telephone call, and she's got it.
Right, well...
That's R, and the last name starts with S as in sugar, L-I... F as in Frank, E-R.
Okay, I've got
that. And we've had to have the police and we've had state police and county police here for a period of 6 years. We had some neighbors that lived next door here to us in Delaware. They moved down to the Maryland area. They live in the Elkton area. We do not know how much harassment is coming from Maryland back into the state of Delaware. We've had state and county police in here for 6 years, cleaning up window panes that were broken, come around here at Halloween time and climb all over your automobiles. We've had people in the neighborhood just stand out here and litter your property. We've had people in our mailboxes and whatnot. So we get out of our mailbox everybody we don't request.
Okay.
And if you got this out of the telephone directory, you're in 100% good shape. If you got it out of the telephone directory, which is published, you're in beautiful 100% shape. But if the source of this address came from someone who wanted to cram down our throats Baptists instead of what we really are, if the source of this was somebody who I happen to know who is a Baptist that's going to see that we get Baptist education regardless, then I consider it a harassment, you see.
May I ask you what you are? Are you saying...
Well, that's invasion of privacy to ask me that personal question.
I see. Okay.
And starting effective October, we have a federal law which will give us the necessary protection out of Congress just passed, coming through the end of September. is a new federal law which will bear down on the whole United States of America starting effective October 1st, 1975. Any invasion of privacy whatsoever will be prosecuted under the federal law starting October 1st, 1975.
Ma'am, I'm sorry, I don't have time any longer. I will be glad to take your name off, and you'll no longer get that publication.
Well, now, this is strictly confidential.
We'll not be telling a soul. We'll
It's strictly
confidential,
confidential, and I am 100% sympathy with all religions all over the United States and all over the world.
Okay.
I am a Christian. I am a member of the church. My husband is a member of the church. My daughter is a member of the church. I believe in the church 100%. I back the church 100%. 100%. I back every religion that wants to exist in the whole wide universe.
Okay.
However, I will not have my mailbox invaded by rocks, frogs, and personal
I would suggest
literature I do not request.
The U.S. Postal Authorities.
Beg pardon?
I would suggest that you contact the U.S. Postal Authorities as to what is put in your mailbox. We have absolutely nothing to do with that.
I've already done that.
Okay.
Now, one other thing I'd like to say before I get off the telephone.
What is that?
In your Baptist article that you have published, you have printed on the inside, the Visitor of the Baptist Bible Church is published monthly, second-class postage page, Elkton, Maryland. That is printed by you personally, it appears, within your article, right?
That is correct.
That is correct. Now, I have examined the literature coming to my door, and I do not see on it anything that says bulk postage paid, which is affixed by the United States Post Office. That I cannot understand.
Because it's not sent bulk, it's sent second class.
Oh, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Anything shipped second class, whoever publishes it puts it down themselves. But if it is published and sent in bulk, then the post office takes care of the bulk stamping.
That's right. We have a second class permit that enables us to print precisely what we have printed, and we pay a certain rate for that, and we need no other information on there.
Well, I'd like to ask you one question, then I'll get off the phone.
What is that?
When there is in the whole United States, we're getting federal legislation to straighten out a lot of junk mail that goes back and forth around the universe.
Bob Massafray.
Oh, this is Mrs. Rodney Slifer. I didn't know whether to call you or the principal of the shoe school. I thought I'd call you first. I'm a bit fast here. I've got a hip out. We have a new boy that's been catching the bus stop here. He's been here on more than one occasion. I thought I'd wait to see how much he made a habit out of it. He's either from the 400 block or the 500 block. Now, I don't know which family he's from. This is confidential. There was one family by the same name in the 400 block that was picked up for heroin. I hope he's the other boy, but that's beside the point. All I know is that we have had umpteen kids in this area that have harassed us, and recently there were 3 kids in here with plastic explosives. He does not meet that description, but we're very careful about the kids that hang in this area. Also, we're careful about the kids that come in the area and talk to other children in the area. We feel that somebody in the immediate area is helping to get people from other areas to harass this house, so we try to keep as many kids from associating around here in a way that could wind up. Now, take Randy, for example, this morning, Randy Wilson. He was up at the Moors one day, and he said to my daughter, he said, say, Mr. Walker's the gym principal over at shoe school. You mustn't tell this is confidential. He said, you know, the people in gym are naked, and they Mr. Walker, the gym teacher, required the boys to sit around naked in a circle. I said to my daughter Eileen, I said, next time you hear Randy Wilson talking that kind of crap down at the Moors, I said, you just excuse yourself and come home, or go inside and play with Stacy. I don't want you around that kind of rigmarole. Well, Randy's up here this morning. We can't get rid of those Wilsons as it stands now. If they, over a period of time, they do something real serious around here, I'm going to call you. But at the present time, we're putting up with the Wilson family here. That's Sandra and David Wilson right across the street. Randy comes in here this morning, he hands Eileen a package up here, rolled up, and I stepped out the door and I said, Eileen, what's that for? She said, science class. I don't know whether she was just covering for Randy or not, you know, how kids will. but Randy Wilson hollered out at me. He says, that's a naked lady. That's a naked lady. Well, if that's the truth of the matter, and he gets Eileen on the school bus and she opens that up and it's a picture of a naked lady, it's no credit to me. I'm going to investigate that further tonight. But I didn't.
You better call the school, I think.
Huh?
You better call the school, I think.
Well, if I find out that my daughter is being embarrassed and whatnot that way, I will pursue that further. I'll have to check that out tonight. But at the present time, we're putting up with Joe Wilson, and particularly Randy Wilson is very undesirable, 100%. He is continually harassing our place, but because these people live right across the street, and normally, this bus stop was set up to get away from those at the end of the block that were considered an absolute nuisance, and including some criminals. We had some in the 400 block that were involved in heroin. And as far as I'm concerned, anytime those Sandra Wilson kids want to pick themselves up and go to the end of the block, they can. I don't want you to say anything at this point. If they get to the point where they become a nuisance here, then that will be it. As long as we keep them isolated from some of the other kids that they can collect, we're in a good spot, and we can get along with our neighbors better than that. But now, the person that I feel should not be here at all is Jeff Dale. Do not say that his family is connected with heroin, because I assume he's the other family. If I thought for 1 minute that he was connected with the family with heroin, I'd scream louder than ever. But I do know he has no business down here. He appears to be Joe Wilson's friend. Now, there's a kid out here who was playing with a group of kids, and he had on a blue jacket, black hat, and gold trim. That is not the description of Jeff Dale. So far, I haven't been able to pin it on him particularly, although I know he's been in the area. And when Randy Wilson and Joe Wilson stands out here and talk about naked girls, goes down the moors and talk about the gym teacher, libel and slander about how the boys have to sit around in a circle as punishment, naked and stuff like that. When Randy Wilson runs his mouth like that, I don't care for a lot of people to hear it out here, because then sooner or later, if Randy gets it in for me, and he does, he just hates me, he absolutely abhors me. Everything he says goes to more people. So I wanted to keep this bus stop limited. I wouldn't want you to tell the principal all the reasons for keeping this bus stop so limited. I want it kept to those who are necessary. Now, the Hall kids, Mr. School Bus, I'm permitting them to stay out here because they're in close proximity. They probably were assigned another bus stop, but I used to watch out for them for 5 years. And the Hall boy broke his leg and everything, and they both missed their school bus one morning, and they called me up desperately. Well, I don't have mud grips, and I said I didn't want to risk going on the roads without mud grips. So their parents got off the Avon job, came out here and took them to school. Well, since that time, Johnny's been up here. Now, I don't know where he's assigned to, but every time they give me trouble out here, I call Betty Hall and W. Hall, and I make it clear that Johnny's most welcome as long as he doesn't cause any problem out here. I know he stands out there with his conversation, and he's been carrying a stick, and I broke that up. I know he stands out there with undesirable conversations. He doesn't care for the Wilson kids, and the Wilson kids don't care for Johnny Hall. Nevertheless, I feel Johnny Hall should be accommodated to the degree that he doesn't cause any trouble. I don't know what he says out there. I know it's undesirable, but as long as he don't get too involved, he's out there. Now, I'm letting Roger get on down there at 317. That's where I used to go down for 5 years and watch him. I could suggest that Roger come up this way, but that would be a little bit out of his path and only create. Now, in the summertime when the weather gets good, and they get enough boys out here for a ball game, that's where this neighborhood goes wrong. And the less boys we have here, the better. And I'm sure that Jeff Dale has probably 2 bus stops close to his home. I would assume at least one would be his normal bus stop, and he probably has availability somewhere in the 400 block for his other bus stop. I don't like Jeff Dale down here because of Randy Wilson's mouth. And the things he says, the more people he says it to, the more libel and slander is distributed in Harmony Hills against Mrs. Rodney L. Schleifer and her family. And I like to keep this Randy as isolated with his mouth as possible. You don't blame me, do you?
No, but there's no way I can control what he says.
No, that's right. I don't ask you to. I don't ask you to control it. I'm just telling you what I'm up against. Now, they broke windows around here. We've had the police in 50 to 100 times. We can't catch these people. But my husband recently said he felt that the 2 Costello boys down here met the description of 2 of the 3. Now, that's beside the point. Now, Murray McLaughlin, he catches a bus out here. And sometimes he harasses me, and sometimes he doesn't, but generally he's acceptable to a certain degree. Now, he meets the description, Marty McLaughlin meets the description of one of 3 boys that were involved in possibly plastic explosives here, and the 2 policemen went to their lab to analyze it. Now, I don't know who around here we're going to catch up with. So we put up with Marty McLaughlin. He didn't take this bus stop at the beginning. He thought he was too good for this bus stop when the school opened up, and he went up there for a long time, and he finally came down here and joined us because he knows that I do maintain a good bus stop. So I want to keep the bus stop as quiet as possible, and without telling all this to the SHU principal, I could have gone directly with all this information, but I think that we'll be better off if we don't say too much. Since either your office or the administrative office sent out the notices as to where kids catch a bus, I know that Jeff Dale was assigned someplace else. He's completely off the beaten path, and he has no business down here.
And I feel that if you picked up the telephone to the SHU principal and told him that Jeff Dale has, on 2 or more occasions, not less than 2 occasions, caught the bus stop down in front of 333 Tamara Circle. And that bus stop is reserved for a certain group of kids that are not harassing our premises. So now we don't want to insinuate that Jeff Dale has started in with harassment, but he has no business down here. He's going to multiply problems over a period of time. If there's some way we could I could call the principal myself. I could call him, if you agree with me, I could call the principal and tell him that Jeff Dale is catching that bus down here.
Well,
and I don't think it should be permitted.
Well, I think that would be the best way to handle it.
Well, I'd be glad to call. Mr. Bab's very cooperative.
Yeah, then they could call him in and tell him that, he's supposed to get on a certain bus at a certain place, and that's it.
He's supposed to get on a bus at a certain place, and they're not going to pick him up down here.
That's right.
And I can use whatever conversation I wish with Mr. Babb to convince him that this should be done. I don't know, something. I'll abstract some of this conversation, but I don't want to take this personal fight. You see, Floyd Wyman knew all this. 5 years of this heck of a mess. We got the Bells out of here, and Margie Bell admitted that George Bell threw eggs at our house. The Bashams got on and disrupted our telephone service. We got them out. And then there was Alan Wilson, who came in here and started a hullabaloo, and they moved away, thank God. And the Wilsons, they're not friends of ours. This is no secret, you mustn't tell it, but they're no friends of ours because they're making themselves very distasteful. Joe Wilson came over here and climbed in a child's tent that they were playing, and he insulted Margie Bell. And I went out, and his zipper was open. Joe Wilson's zipper was open. Now, this is confidential. I don't want it told. I said, Joe, zip up your zipper and get home. And then his mother, she said I said he was a pervert. I never used words like that. And she pulled him off the property, and she doesn't let those kids come around here. And I took my child away from visiting over across the street. There's a house to be sold next door. Next year, there's going to be 2 little kids down here, Campbell kids, probably. They're at the end of the block. And if those 2 little girls want to come up this way, fine. Now, if I call the principal, can I tell him that I spoke with Mr. Massafera, that, either...
Tell him that you spoke to me and that...
you agree that Jeff Dale shouldn't be on this bus stop?
He should be on whatever bus stop he's supposed to get on, and I don't think that's his. Now, I'd have to look that up, but...
Well, it couldn't be his because he never came here until just this past week.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean it couldn't be his. In other words, what's his address?
It's either 400 block or 500 block. It might be 400 block. And the 400 kids are not assigned here at all. You still have the SHU bus stop at Barrett Lane, don't you? Well, that's the closest one.
Well,
he doesn't live anywhere in the 300 block.
Well, then he shouldn't be there.
He shouldn't be here.
Right.
And actually, it would be more effective and less rigmarole. It would be more effective if you just picked up the phone to Mr. Babb tomorrow and called Mr. Babb, and I could call him too, would give you time to call too, to just say, I understand Jeff Dale is in the 300 block, is catching the school bus at 333 Tamara Circle, and he has a bus stop someplace other than, huh?
He has a bus stop closer to his home.
He has a bus stop closer to his home, and unless Mr. Babb has specifically told him that he can go elsewhere, that he should be pulled out of here for personal reasons. For good and personal reasons. Don't you think that when we have to go through the police for 6 solid years, we've got good personal justification for watching this bus stop?
In other words, the school can't get involved in that. The only thing the school can get involved is to tell him to go to his own bus stop, because that's where he belongs.
Well,
As far as the personal reasons, I don't think we can enter into that at all. That's not the problem. The problem is
he's
he should be going to his own bus stop.
He's violating school regulations.
Right.
Because he's violating school regulations.
Right.
Now, Arlene, I got permission from her, as you will recall, when she was young, to go up here to some other place because I had a babysitter there. But I'm not this kid's babysitter. That's different, where you're putting your child out and trying to get out and work a job or someplace to put a child out and you get or to send them someplace so that they won't be threatened bodily. If there were 2 bus stops and somebody was causing a fight all the time and the principal said, well, you go to the other one to avoid fighting with this particular child, the principal made that decision. That should be within the scope of the principal to decide where he's going to send a child. But I'm sure Mr. Babb hasn't assigned him down here. Do you think that you want to call Mr. Babb, or do you want me to call him? Or...
Well, I can call him. I don't know how much good this is all going to do.
Look, I can call Mr. Babb and tell him that Mr. Massafera said that if what I had to say was not sufficient justification to remove him from this bus stop, he was free to call you.
All right, why don't you do that?
Is that okay?
Yep.
Now, if I don't think Mr. Babb will call you, but if he said he'd like to call you, your contention will be is that you know that this is not his bus stop, and you don't want him there just
That's
like
right.
that.
That's right.
You absolutely don't want him there because
That's not his bus stop.
that's not his bus stop, and we have sufficient justification to object to him using this bus stop.
Well, the only reason that I can object to him coming up there is that that's not his bus stop. See, I can't say that he's bothering some other kid. That's a neighborhood problem.
Right, and we don't want to discuss that either with Mr. Babb or you.
Right. In other words, the only thing we can say is you have to get on the bus stop closest to your home. That's the way it's set up, so that's it.
Now, one other thing, maybe you should call Mr. Babb. I'll tell you why. They retaliate against me and break windows, and if they find that Mrs. Rodney Schleifer is the one that's filed the complaint, they specifically retaliate. If you just call Mr. Babb and say, I understand, I have had a report that Jeff Dale's at 333 Tamara bus stop, and he has been there on at least 2 occasions or more, and he's making a practice of catching the bus up here, and you know what? And you say that you cannot give out the name of the person who turned it in because there's been retaliation in the neighborhood. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay?
All right.
I'll take care of this tomorrow.
Right.
Thank you. Bye.
Is Eileen there?
She's on the other phone.
She just now hung up. Just a moment.
Hello?
Hello.
Is this Slayford?
What number are you calling?
737-2392.
Hello?
Is this Slayford?
Yes.
Is Eileen there? This is Lori.
Oh, Laurie?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. For a moment, you had me going there. Just a moment. I'll get Eileen.
Only a Girl Like You by Sidney Offutt. O-F-F-I-T. Due back January 24, 1975. Shoe School Library.
Hello.
Grace?
Yep.
Grace?
Yes.
This is Peg.
Yes.
How are you?
Fine.
That's good. This Grace Eastburn?
Who's calling?
Peg Hawthorne.
I beg pardon?
Peg Hawthorne.
Peg Hawthorne?
Yeah.
From what development?
Well, no, I don't live in the development. I live in Newark. Is this Grace Eastburn's house?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's not 737-2382 then, is it?
What number?
737-2382.
23.
82.
Let me see. No, it's not 82.
Isn't? No. Oh,
You've just misdialed.
that's right. Thank you. Bye. Sorry.
Not on your record yet.
Okay, do you know when he got his phone installed?
They had a phone installed a few days ago.
Well, that's probably the reason, ma'am. It hasn't, I haven't gotten into my records yet.
You haven't gotten it yet.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Directory?
Do you have a telephone number for Alexander on Tamara Circle in Newark? Somebody by the name of Dave, I think, lives there. His first name's Dave, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. David B. Fitzgerald.
That's what I need. They're always asking for Dave.
Yeah.
David, B as in boy?
B like in boy.
B like in boy.
Fitzgerald.
Fitzgerald.
Correct.
Fitzgerald. And does it have a street address?
10 Carlin Lane.
10, how do you spell Carlin?
C-A-R-L-I-N.
C-A-R-L-I-N.
Lane.
Lane.
Mm.
10 Carlin Lane, Brookside.
Correct.
I see. Well, now, if you look in the regular telephone directory, I'm sure they'd be listed because I talked to him last night, and he said his number was published. so I can turn right back to the regular telephone directory, and
That's right.
I'll know with whom I'm connected.
That's correct.
This is confidential. I appreciate that.
Thank
I just want to stop telephone calls coming into another telephone number, and I talked with him last night. He said his name was Dave, and no problem, and you can get this from any real estate book.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome.
Goodbye.
Bye now.
Hello?
I'm trying to reach Peg Thornton in Newark. Could I get her telephone number from you, please?
Yeah, just a minute. Let me see. Where does she live in Newark?
Hello?
Yeah, where does she live in New York? Who you calling? Peg Thornton?
Yes.
Why do you want it from me?
Huh?
Why do you want the telephone number from me?
Well, she calls my residence when she tries to reach you.
Who do you think you're talking to? I don't know any Peg
You're
Thornton.
Grace Eastburn, aren't you?
No, I'm not. That's what I wondered what you're talking about.
Are you 737-2382?
No, I'm 1082. You've dialed it wrong.
1082.
I am 1082.
108.
Betty?
Oh, yes.
Is Betty who?
You must be the lady that often tries to reach Betty and misdials the telephone number. I think we've talked before about this problem that you misdial a telephone number.
Well, what is your number? 737-2392?
Yes, it is 737-2392. It
Okay,
is, but we've been over this matter before.
Well,
you have a habit of dialing 2392.
Well,
You've
you
done
know,
that
anybody,
repeatedly.
honey, can make a mistake. I'm sorry I bothered you.
Are you still there?
The call from Janice Taylor came in before 2:49 p.m. today. I believe that's Janice Taylor that calls up 737-2392 and asks for Betty. Well, anybody can make a mistake, honey. And we've been repeatedly getting calls for Betty on 737-2392. Is she checking this residence to see if I'm home? Did she personally get in my home and steal any credit cards? Has she been in my house when my back's turned? Does she have access to this house in any way? This is interesting. She'd probably have the nerve to come in my house and search it if she could, if she thought she could pick up any kind of photographs or anything in this house. Janice Taylor, I don't know. This is a horrible idea. There's supposed to be a Betty Ellingsworth, I suppose, or something like that. I'll have to check this out. This is May the 2nd, a Friday afternoon, 1975. May 2nd, 1975.
Good morning, BJ Daily.
Is this the Feely residence?
What?
Is this the residence of F-E-E-L-E-Y?
No, it's BJ Daily on 3400 Washington Street.
Did you say 34th and Washington, or did you say 44th and Washington?
34.
F-O-R-T-Y? Did you say 44?
34.
Oh, you said 34.
Yeah.
You said 34th and Washington.
Yeah.
Are you in the window cleaning business?
No.
Oh. You mean this is a telephone number for 34th and Washington Street?
Yes, ma'am.
I see. And I'm not connected with F-E-E-L-E-Y, the Feely residence?
The telephone?
Am I connected with the Feely residence? F-E-E-L-E-Y?
No.
No? What residence am I connected with?
Who are you calling? You calling for the telephone company?
No, I live here in Delaware, and
Yeah.
I wanted to reach 764-7335.
Yeah.
Is this your telephone number?
Yeah, 764.
764-7335.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're located at 34th and Washington.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, look, sir, is this the Feely residence? F-E-E-L-E-Y?
No.
Well,
This is the new store. You got to open up 1 month. The telephone is new too. Probably the East telephone number somebody else you have before.
Am I connected with a business or a residence?
Business.
And what's the name of the business?
P&J Delicatessen.
P&J. How do you spell that last, please? I didn't quite get it. I'm a little bit hard of hearing. I'm a little bit...
John. You like John.
Yeah, I'm a little bit hard of hearing, and I didn't quite get it. You'll have to spell it for me, because I'm just a little hard to get information on the phone. You say P&J. How do you spell that last, please?
J. Look like John. Just the first letter, J.
Yeah.
All right, Delicatessen.
How do you spell that? Oh, you mean delicatessen?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, a delicatessen. You sell food, and you sell food.
Yes.
And you're at 34th and Washington.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's a delicatessen. The P like in Peter. P and J delicatessen.
Yes, ma'am.
And the telephone number is 764-7335.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, and this is not the Feely residence. Well, Can you tell me if you know anything about some window cleaning services?
No, ma'am.
You don't?
Call them up the information and give you their number, all right?
Do you know who I'm talking to? I mean, are you the owner of this delicatessen?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, you're the owner of the delicatessen. And is your name P&J or?
Yeah.
Oh, your name is P&J.
Yeah.
What's your last name, sir? I'm trying to check out this, I was supposed to call this telephone number, and I'm not quite sure. Maybe your wife called our residence, not you, because I was talking to some lady at this telephone number. Maybe your wife put in a telephone call. Is your wife there?
Wait a minute.
Hello?
Hello, is this 764-7335?
Yes, ma'am.
I see. This is the P&J Delicatessen, right?
Yes.
And you're at 34th and Washington?
Washington Street, yes.
Yeah, 34th and Washington Street.
Yes, ma'am.
Was it you the other day that was trying to get in touch with a window cleaner?
Yeah.
It was?
Yeah, I tried to because I find one no better.
Oh, you found a window cleaner.
Yes.
You did.
Uh-huh.
Well, it was you that was trying to find a window cleaner in connection with some address.
Right. Yeah.
What was it you that was trying to check out a telephone number that began with 737?
No, this phone number I find on the phone book.
That's right.
Yeah.
You found a telephone number in the phone book, and it was under B-S-L-I-D-E-R.
No, I don't know exactly the first name, start, but the last name is the same thing. The last name, not the first name.
The last name was S-L-I-D-E-R.
Yes, yes.
Did you ever catch up with that individual that you were trying
No.
to locate?
No, ma'am.
You
No.
never did?
No.
And you got that telephone number out of the Wilmington telephone directory?
Yes, ma'am.
And, well, I looked in the telephone directory. Can you turn to your telephone directory, ma'am? I need a little bit of help on this research. I'm trying to check out a telephone number here to get it straight. Can you turn to the page of the telephone directory that you were working with the other day under the same, I got a duplicate telephone directory. Would you check the page number there for me, please? I'd appreciate it very much.
I'm busy right now, miss. I can't. I have the customers to wait.
Oh. Well, you mean that you turned inside the telephone...
I find somebody else now. Doesn't matter for me.
I beg your pardon?
I find somebody else to fix the ruido. If you... I can find the person. I find somebody else there to come in.
Yeah. And you got this telephone number out of your Wilmington telephone directory. You mean it was published? Was it one of these regular Diamond State telephone directories that you was looking in, or was it some kind of a special telephone directory in the city that you got this telephone number?
No, ma'am. I'm sorry. I'm busy now. I cannot give you more
Well, I'll
information.
talk to you later. I'll talk to you later. Thank you.
Yes, I do. Uh-huh.
Can you tell me a little bit about, please?
Sure. What does he want to know? Have you taken ceramics?
Well, I got one of these yellow advertisements,
Yes.
and I thought maybe you could bring me up to date about it.
Are you interested in lessons, you mean?
Well, I'd like to know what your program includes. You're over in Maple Crest, aren't you?
Yes.
Well, I'm over in Harmony Hills.
Mm-hmm.
I say, can you tell me a little bit about what you have in mind?
Yes, well, my hours are flexible because, in fact, I've just started, you know.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going to be here in the morning, afternoon, and evenings.
You mean at your own residence?
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And what is your name?
Well, I'd rather not give my name out. I haven't
Well, if
been
you
listening.
can't give your name, then why do you want to know about the studio?
Well, I'll tell you. Somebody, do you know whether or not you personally dropped this off or whether you had somebody drop off these leaflets?
No, I didn't drop them off.
Do you know who did drop them off?
No, I don't. Why? What happened?
Well, do you have any idea how they got distributed in Harmony Hills? Were they distributed in the daytime or at night?
Daytime.
Daytime.
They were supposed to be. Why?
Late afternoon?
I really couldn't say why.
Well, I was just wondering who you had hired to distribute these memorandums.
My son took care of that. Why?
Oh, you mean he personally dropped them off? Well, that's fine. I'm glad to know that it's just limited to your family. Much happier to know that your son was the one who dropped them off.
No, my son did not drop them off. He saw to that they were.
Oh, he got somebody else to drop them off.
I guess. Now, what do you want to know all this for?
Well, because it involves...
If you can't give me your name...
Well, I'll tell you why I want to know.
Yeah.
This involves trespassing in a very serious way. It involves
violation
of the United States postal laws.
I have gotten lots of things stuck on my door.
Somebody was in my United States mailbox. Somebody
well,
was
for
in...
heaven's sakes, it must have been a child, and they didn't know. And I'm very sorry if it was dropped in your mailbox.
Well,
they were told not to put them in the mailbox.
Well, I thought you'd want to...
I
thought you would
do.
want.
Yes, I do want to
thought you'd
know.
want to file.
If I find out who distributed in Harmony Hills, I'll just tell them that they'll never put them in a mail. They were told not to do that to begin with.
Now, look, our particular mailbox is under 100% federal surveillance.
So is everybody else's in
Well,
there.
ours particularly happens to be under surveillance.
Well, whoever dropped it off was told never to put it in your mailbox. They were told to slip it at your doorknob or on your doorstep.
Well, now, what I'd like to make is a suggestion. Memorandums like this, if they have a little cutout, you take the scissors and cut a little hole in the corner, they can be tied to doorknobs.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to be helpful to you.
Well, that would be nice. I
Well,
never thought of that.
in this day and age, you know, some of these things have holes, put them in. In this day and age, we have to be particularly careful. So many people are unemployed, and I admire you for wanting to earn some money. I say
Well, I'll
amen.
tell you, I have to because I have a very sick mother, and I
Well,
have medical bills to pay.
Well, I am totally disabled, too. My
mother is, too.
My husband has a paycheck, and
I'm totally liable for her.
That's right. I'm totally disabled. I'm not
Are
getting
you
Social
really?
Security. Yep, totally disabled, and I don't
My
get Social
heavens,
Security.
what's the matter with you?
Huh?
What's wrong?
Well, that's personal because I'm well known in the area.
Well, I didn't mean it to be newsy. I just thought maybe you had like my mother.
No, well, I'm not working.
No, she isn't. Oh, my mother couldn't.
I had an accident,
Did
and
you really?
it got me laid up.
Oh, no.
And what I was going to say is that I'm totally disabled, and I don't get Social Security. And
and
if I were busy, I wouldn't have time to call around and help people. Now I'm working on this tax rebate. I work on civic legislation all over Delaware. I help the citizens. I took
that's good to know.
I took the Dale Carnegie course.
That's why I'd like to know who you are. Maybe you can help me.
Well, look, I don't like to criticize.
I would never mention your name.
Look, I don't like to criticize, condemn, and complain. Please believe me.
No,
but
I believe you.
I was taught by the Dale Carnegie course that when you have a problem, you find out all the facts, and then you take action, and you speak up, and then you shut up.
Right.
You just don't hide communications. Communications is important in America. I pick up the newspaper, and 1,200 people arrested down in Washington. They went up to the Capitol steps, and 1,200 people got arrested. Well, I know they have to protect that Capitol, and I've often wondered about that. And I think that thing will be appealed to the Supreme Court. I'm a legal expert, and I'm as good as F. Lee Bailey sometimes, they say.
That's nice to know. Why don't you tell me? Maybe you could advise me.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't know how many people I've chased down my United States mailbox.
Well,
Do you blame
I don't
me?
blame you one bit. I didn't know it was delivered in your mailbox.
Well, my
Whoever
husband's
delivered
paycheck,
told
I
to
can't.
put it in the door.
I can't get my husband's paycheck in my box because I don't know who's going to get in there.
Oh, my.
And I happen to be in an area here.
That certainly is a shame.
Well, I'm in an area here where there's 100% surveillance not only on my mailbox but on my premises.
That's good to know.
At Mischief Night, there was damages done here.
I know there was at my place, too.
There was.
Uh-huh.
So, I don't care who it is coming and going. I get the message to them. I call up some great big company here that can afford to pay postage, you know.
Yeah.
And I said, now, look, I'd like to know all about this. And they told me all about it. And I said, no, look, I just want to be friendly with you, but I want to tell you what the law is.
Can you hold on just a minute while I help my mother to the bathroom?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I'm back.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm sorry that was delivered to your mailbox.
Well,
I certainly will check with who delivered it and see that it is never done again.
Well, your apology is accepted, and there's no problem.
And I really didn't mean to. I
will
really
have
didn't
to
mean for
notify.
them to do that because they were told not to.
Yeah, well, I'll have to notify the post office that this can't happen again. Plus the fact that our particular area may be swamped with stuff in the mailbox before the mail's delivered.
Yeah.
And what they do is you'll get a routine notice that this cannot happen again.
Yeah.
And
no, it won't happen again. I can assure you.
And
I'll find out who delivered over there, and I will ream them out for that.
Well, the post office will mail its routine notice, and legally they could collect postage
on everything. Do you have to call them if I don't let it happen again?
Huh?
Do you have to
Well,
call
I have to notify them for my own protection.
You notify them, and
I have to notify them for my own protection. You see, I tell you, I can't give you notice. If anything happens again, I can't give you notice. They have to have a written record that this particular address has been notified not to use the United States mails.
Okay.
Now, what I was going to say is not that I want to do any harm, but we want a postal record of the fact of where these things coming from and who is in the mailbox. Now, I'll tell you what happened. There was a car up here in Harmony Hills recently. I got its license number because it looked suspicious. It was parked in an out-of-way area. There was a young white male with long hair, you know.
Oh, no.
And there is one thing you do to counteract crime in America, and that is get the license plate. That's much better than the description. The license number, once they get the license number, they can find out
they can trace them right down.
Well, they can not only find who owned it, but who was driving it.
That's right.
And who their associates are. And they may pick up a whole gang.
Right.
And so the license...
Believe me, they should be picked up.
Well, license numbers are very important.
Yes, they are.
So I consider myself more or less a detective here in the Delaware area, a private citizen that has learned how to cope with crime.
Well, I want to thank you for calling.
Well, you know, I picked up that license.
Who did it.
I picked up that license number, and lo and behold, recently in the paper, I pick up the paper and they say a rape suspect was caught.
Oh, my.
That's the way to get him, isn't it?
Oh, my.
That's the way to get him, isn't it?
I know it's so.
Now, I'll tell you what happened. Suppose he'd have been a burglar or something like that. I don't know whether he's one and the same, but it looked to me like from all the rigmarole that might have been the same technicality. But what I was going to say is, Suppose we had a burglar in the area, and something had been taken from the Harmony Hills area. Okay, when was it taken? Yesterday afternoon or last night? Now, anybody on the premises in the daytime is much more honored than somebody at night. I get up at 8:15 a.m. this morning and find that in my mailbox.
Right.
My daughter's catching school bus, and I always check the box frequently every day to make sure that nobody's put a frog in there, or a snake, or a rock.
A frog or snake in your mailbox?
A frog, a snake, a rock, a
Really?
toad.
Well, you never can tell, can you? Now,
Huh?
you've got a good mind on you thinking that.
Huh?
You've got a good mind on you thinking that.
Well, I
never give that a thought.
I check my mailbox frequently. One time guy said it. There was a toad in there.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I happen to be well-liked in the area and
Well, that's
well-known.
good. No wonder you are.
Well-liked and well-known because I work on civic matters.
Right. That's
And I just say that I have been of help. Now, I'm working on this tax rebate. I'd like to see them rebated against the 73 return that's already filed rather than the 74. Now, if we accomplish that, give me credit for it.
Well,
I'm the one that has initiated that.
Well, I'm certainly glad to hear that, and I'm glad you let me know. And like I say, I will take care of this matter for you.
Well, I'm going to tell the post office
and
department.
see that doesn't happen.
I'm going to call the post office department
All right.
in Newark, and I'm going to tell them that I found this morning, and I talked with the lady, and there's disability in the home, and some kids had distributed that they didn't know, but the family has been advised. The family's been advised and suggested that they cut a hole in these pamphlets and pin them on, and because of the disability in the family, don't take no action, just send them a notice that this is not to be done again.
That's very nice.
Not to charge them for any deliveries to mailboxes.
Well, you know what it's like to have
They could
disability.
look. Do you know what the post office department does if they go out to deliver the mail this morning and they find those things?
I'd hate to think so.
You know what they're going to do? They go out and pick up 20 of those. I've talked to the post office department. When they go to deliver mail, they have to check and see if that's something to be mailed, you know? They find a sheet of paper like that, they can't ship it because it doesn't have any postage on it. So when they find it like that, they take it out of the mailbox. The homeowner doesn't get it, they get it. That's the law. The homeowner doesn't get it when it's in the mailbox. It does not reach the homeowner when they find something in there. And it's a usage of a mailbox without postage. They pick all these up, and they take them in, and they get, say, 50 of them. And, boy, then they start raising heck.
Well, believe me, I didn't know this. And I certainly will find out about it.
The post office is going to be the recipient of this.
That's all right.
You know what they did with one company? They billed them for about 1,000 deliveries, postage on the 1,000 deliveries.
I'm not even a company.
Huh?
And I'm not even a company.
You couldn't afford that, could you?
Oh, my God, no.
That's why I called you. If that had been a company, if that had been a company, I wouldn't care whether they had to pay for 1,000 pampers or not. We don't have nothing private anymore in America except our postal mailbox.
That's the truth.
Our pants are not even private.
She was in a car accident and she got paralyzed from her neck down. And she was in Smyrna, in a home.
Yeah. Keep going.
That's all.
All right, keep going.
That's all.
And who was she?
I don't know. Dee Dee, her sister's name's Dee Dee.
Yeah, and what else? Was her name Paula?
I don't know her last name.
Di Lorenzo or Di Senzo or something like that?
I don't know her last name.
Keep talking in there. I want a record of this. Just a minute.
I don't know it. Oh, brother. I don't know her last name or her first name.
Is it this one? Paula Lorenzi, 17 years old.
Yeah.
Severed her spine. She's going to the Maryland Rehabilitation Center. Is that the one?
I don't know.
Why was you going to go to Smyrna to visit? I want to know why you were going to Smyrna. Tell me all over again why this teacher wanted to take you to Smyrna.
We were gonna, go and sing for her.
And what else was you going to do? besides go and sing for her?
That's all.
And what else?
Mm-hmm.
What is the name of the individual at the church was going to do all this? Do you know her name?
Whose?
The lady at the church was going to have you do all this. Do you know her name?
Our Sunday school teacher.
Is it your Sunday school teacher that you have on a regular basis in your Sunday school, or a special Sunday school teacher that was there Wednesday night?
A regular one.
Oh, you mean this Wednesday night? This Wednesday night.
They went last Sunday to visit her.
They did go last Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
The church group did go. What did they say because you didn't go along?
Nothing. Only 2 people went, I think.
Only 2 people went.
Lorenzi, that's her last name, I'm pretty sure.
Well, now look, this Sunday school teacher.
Oh, forget it.
Now look, this Sunday school teacher that you have at the Christ United Methodist Church, is that the same lady that teaches you Sunday school when you go every Sunday?
Yes.
She's the same lady that you have on Wednesday nights.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? And what Sunday school group are you at the Christ United Methodist Church?
What do you mean?
In what group are you in the Sunday school at Christ United Methodist Church? What group?
What do you mean, group?
I mean, what group?
What do you mean? We don't have groups.
You don't have groups? I mean, are you in the 6th grade Sunday school class?
Yes.
Is it 6th grade or 7th grade or?
6th and 7th, I think.
6th and 7th. And do you know the name of the teacher?
Mm-hmm.
What is her name?
Candy Frank.
Candy what?
Frank.
Candy Frank. Okay. Now, what class were you in before at the United Methodist Church before you went to that class? The 5th grade class?
Mm-hmm.
And who taught the 5th grade class?
Mrs. Eastburn. Well, Mrs. Danny did, till about, well, wait, let me think.
Which Eastburn?
Mrs. Eastburn,
Where is she from?
I don't know. She taught part of it, and Mrs. Danny taught the other part.
Mrs. Eastburn. Who is Mrs. Eastburn?
A lady.
From where?
I don't know. She teaches at, Anna P. Moat School, 2nd grade, something like that, too.
And what's her first name?
I don't know.
Mrs. Eastburn. Is her first name Grace?
I don't know.
Well, can you find out what her first name is?
Why?
I need to know the first name of this Mrs. Eastburn.
Well, why? Don't you like her?
A Mrs. Eastburn has the other telephone number that we've got, 737-2392. A Mrs. Eastburn has 737-2382. Her name is Grace Eastburn. She's from Fox Chase, and her husband's name is James Earl Eastburn. Which Eastburn is this?
It's not her.
Well, make sure you find out what her first name is.
She's not there anymore.
Why isn't she there anymore?
I don't know. I saw her last Sunday in church, but she don't teach anymore.
Oh, she don't teach Sunday school anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But her name's Eastburn.
Mrs. Eastburn. She's nice.
Okay. And the name of your new teacher is Candy what?
Candy Frank.
Candy Frank. Is she still your teacher?
Mm-hmm.
At the United Methodist Church?
Mm-hmm.
And it was Candy Frank, your teacher, that wanted to take you down to Smyrna?
Yes.
And what's going to happen to these Wednesday night sessions at the United Methodist Church?
We're still going to have them.
They're still going to have them? What they going to do on Wednesday nights?
Well, we're called the missionaries, and sometimes we draw posters, or like one week we were supposed to draw posters, but you wouldn't let me go, and we talk and read the Bible and stuff like that. I guess.
I
don't know.
And you're called the missionaries.
Mm-hmm.
The missionaries of the United Methodist Church?
Yeah, just the missionaries.
Yeah. Now, what other groups are you interested in joining at the United Methodist Church besides this group?
Mm-hmm.
Let me know. Do you want to be in the chorus at the United Methodist Church?
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about the chorus?
I don't want to be in it.
You don't want to be in the chorus?
No.
Why don't you want to be in the chorus?
Because, I don't know, I just don't like to sing.
Eileen don't like to sing, she says.
I don't like to sing church music that much. I mean, like, I like to sing Sunday school music, but I wouldn't want to be in the choir, because you'd have to stand up in front of the whole church. I'd start blushing and everything else. I can't sing good anyway.
Eileen's not interested in singing in the church choir because she's embarrassed to stand up and sing before people in the church.
I'm even embarrassed to do it in school.
Eileen is even embarrassed to stand up in school and speak. This specific speaking and specific information she will have to learn to do. Tell me about the pajamas that you had down at Gussie Berg's. How about those pajamas that you took with you? What was you trying to tell me from Gussie Berg's about the pajamas you took?
Nothing.
Eileen Slafer was down at the Bergs, and I called down and said we would bring down her nightgown. I thought she forgot it, so Slafer gets on the phone, and she tries to tell me something from the Bergs about pajamas. Let Eileen tell me all over again about the pajamas from the Bergs. Here. What about those pajamas?
When you went in to call the Bergs, I put my pink pair in the bag and rolled it off and came back in the room.
And then when she got down to the Bergs, she already had her pink pajamas. And she gets on the phone from the Bergs, and she's trying to tell me something about her pink pajamas. What were you trying to tell me from the Bergs about your pink pajamas? Here.
Crime and Punishment of the Problem Child. That I was a particularly clever or devious child, I would not describe myself as such. I wasn't typically ornery. For the most part, my bouts of bad could most obviously be attributed as a reaction to my mentally ill mother, with whom I held a deep aversion, and lacked even the semblance of any kind of normal bond. I was a plain child, lived a very sheltered existence, and was probably quite boring of a personality. I never laughed a lot or had much of a sense of humor. I usually didn't get things other kids would talk and joke about. I took everything very seriously. I was not popular and had a small circle of friends. I was teased a lot, especially as the daughter of crazy old Mrs. Slafer. I learned from a young age to join with the kids in the neighborhood who would constantly talk about how crazy she was and pull pranks on her. But up until this day I only verbally talked about her or called her the names they called her. I had never pranked her the way the other kids did. She was paranoid, seriously paranoid. She spent huge amounts of time taking notes on all the neighbors and making files on them for the FBI. She put up Venetian blinds all around the house and cut little slits in the drapes to spy out of. The kids could see her peeking out of them for hours on end, and they were relentless in providing stimuli for her paranoia. They would throw rotten tomatoes and eggs and rocks at the house, soap the windows, string toilet paper in the bushes, and leave frogs in her mailbox. Mischief night was the worst, but stuff went on throughout the year. One of their favorite things to do was have a rodeo in front of her house, as she would call it. Several kids would ride their bikes around in circles in the street, over and over, until it would drive her crazy and she'd come out to chase them away, or would call the police. I guess that just because you're paranoid doesn't mean that everyone is not out to get you. The kids would yell stuff at her, stand on the sidewalk and make faces, or run up into her yard just to annoy her. There was a boy across the street, Randy Wilson, whom she was particularly paranoid about. She had a thing about establishing property boundaries and would put stakes up and position other objects and shrubbery around the yard just to keep people away. Eventually she made my dad chop down all the normal landscaping, trees and bushes in which people might hide, and she then replaced them with random saplings and tiny ornamental plants that would be strategically positioned in the yard. There was a meaning to everything. A certain bush that was placed exactly 3 feet and 4.5 inches from the property line and halfway up the yard, to oddly placed plants that were a certain color or placed in certain other relationship to the property markers and other plants. Who knows? All I ever understood was that my father was furious and disgusted, but she was so relentless that he'd be out there chopping things down and digging holes wherever she told him, just to be able to sleep at night. One of the most embarrassing of these yard embellishments were the flat concrete patio blocks that she made my father place every few feet all along the property line. The kids would tease me that there were tombstones in our yard, and they loved to stand on the neighbor's side with their toes a 1/4 inch from the line, every so often sliding their foot over the boundary for a moment. I would say it drove her insane, but she already was. It was a torment she couldn't cope with. It kept her glued to the window and away from most every other normal activity of daily living. You must understand that she was at war with the next-door neighbors and wanted to make sure that they didn't cut any of her grass. She was under the delusion that they were trying to steal a few inches of her property by establishing regular maintenance such as grass cutting. The war with these neighbors actually started because they built a carport which my mother claimed encroached 6 inches closer to her property than it legally should have. Shortly before she died, over 30 years later, she was still rambling on about that carport and how all her relationship problems with me were the result of problems in the neighborhood which arose from their encroachment. I was the only child of a grossly mismatched couple who had been married 15 years before I was born. My father was 49 when I was born, and my mother was 39. She had mental issues before I was born, but they increasingly worsened after my birth and throughout the remainder of her life. All this to say that I don't know what came over me on that summer day, what possessed me to do what I did. It was late afternoon, and my father was at work and my mother gone as well. Usually she'd force me to ride around with her while she went on endless and pointless errands, but this day she let me stay with my friends to play. I was probably around 10 or 12 years old if I were to guess. Anna, Sue, Stacy, and I were making mud pies in the Hugels' backyard, an activity we rarely did, and even at the time I thought I was too old for. But I think we were all bored that day, and thus got into this child's play. I remember we were becoming very elaborate in the process, and Stacy went in to get plastic bags so we could extrude the mud into cake-topping decorations. We filled the bags with the mud mixture, cut a hole in the corner, and began extruding. Maybe it was that I had never extruded real cake decoration before and was somehow fascinated with this pseudo-process, or maybe it was that my mind was just plain diabolical. I remember saying that it looked like dog poop. The other girls laughed, and we kept messing around with the stuff. Ew, that's disgusting. Yeah, isn't this gross? It looks just like dog poop. As I said, something very dark must have overtaken me, because a light bulb suddenly went off in my mind. Dog poop! Yeah, dog poop! Oh my gosh, I can create authentic-looking dog poop. Hey, I said, Why don't we go up to my house and put a pile of this dog poop on my mother's steps? She'll think it's real. Come on, let's go do it. I was beside myself with the image of it in my head. Stacy said, "No way, I'm not going to do that. You know how mad she'd get? What if she gets back when we're there?" Susie agreed. Probably Anna did too, but I was determined and empowered over this impulsively evil mission, and I managed to persuade Anna to come with me. I probably said we'd be quick about it before she got home. So up we went with our bags of mud. As I recall, we were only going to do a little bit on the porch. We made an authentic-looking pile or two, and we were just dying. Oh my gosh! She is going to freak out. This was just too much. We were laughing like crazy. Well, let's go, Anna must have said. Maybe from a young age I had a problem with the less is more concept. At any rate, I was just getting warmed up. "No, let's do some more," I said to Anna. I had totally lost my senses. I was an immortal. The fear of God was totally removed from my reality. I was propelled by a vision of a new and brighter day, or something like that. Anna was nervous, but I think my confidence overrode any sense of reason that remained. We proceeded to create piles and piles, lined all up and down her driveway, and in circular patterns at the top end. A pile on each step going up to the small porch. We may have even put one on the railing. I can only imagine what a horrible act we perpetrated that day. Just as we were finishing up, as though there would have been a finishing point, I think we just kept going back for more mud, which Stacy and Susie were working on for us, a true-life conspiracy. My father came home. Now my father calmed his nerves by chewing Red Man tobacco, and this day was no different. He walked up the driveway, and the engineer in him must have been surveying all these piles. He asked what we were doing, and we told him. His mouth was full of tobacco, and he had this horrible look of amusement on his face. In typical Jimmy Stewart fashion, he could have broken out in uncontrollable laughter, but he was just beside himself with restraint. I remember him shaking his head with his smirking mouth full of tobacco, and saying 17 simple words to me that I must have been too brain-dead to comprehend. "You better clean this up or you're going to have hell to pay when she gets home." There you go. I guess I was warned. But he, too, was amused. It was funny, I think. I always remember him calling her she, or her, not your mother or anything else respectful, just she. Well, I didn't clean it up. Anna went off and I went inside, and soon thereafter she came home. Now the more I think on this, the less I'm sure how the dialogue must have gone, or what led to what. How the concept of a pack of wild dogs was introduced, I am unsure. Perhaps she concluded it, or maybe I even introduced the idea to her somehow. All I remember is that she was yelling at my dad that someone had brought a pack of wild dogs on her property and they had shit all over it, and she was going to call the police. The police? I hadn't thought of this. Although I should have known such an act might have unending consequences. I was getting nervous. My mother went across the street and got Mrs. Wilson, Randy's mom, and showed her all the piles. I saw them standing out in the street talking, and I went over to them. My mother was telling her that she was going to call the police. I guess this would have been a reasonable response to a pack of perverted wild dogs who had pooped in circles on her driveway. I must have been sweating, although it wasn't from the summer heat. I finally said, "Don't call the police. I did it." I remember Mrs. Wilson looking at me and saying, "You should be ashamed of yourself." And my mother, after clearly establishing that yes, indeed, I did it, telling me to get the hell inside the house. I went in. I hear her coming into the room, and she is mad as a hornet. I know there is no escaping her wrath. It will only be a matter of time before she finds me in this closet. I try to be as quiet as possible. Although I am so nervous, I find myself quietly trying to muffle my own giggles. Nothing is funny. I am terrified of her impending tirade, but I am for the moment removed from the reality until it comes upon me. I guess I am so removed that something is striking me as funny, me being in a closet hiding from her. I hear her shouting, "Where are you?" She opens the closet and I hear her harsh voice. "Get your little ass out of there, Missy. I'll teach you a lesson you'll never forget." She has a belt in her hand and she starts trying to pull me out of the closet. Then the fight begins. I shout at her to leave me alone and she cracks the belt across my legs. It stings. I scream and kick at her and try to get to the bedroom door unsuccessfully. She is repeatedly cracking me with the belt, and I am crying and begging her to stop. I try to block it with my hands, and they feel the sting. She is yelling, "I'll whip your little ass until it bleeds." I continue to do whatever I can to defend myself and hurt her back. I am crying hard and screaming, "I hate you! I hate you! I hate you!" She starts into her verbal ranting at me. "How dare you raise hell in the neighborhood against me and destroy public relations? I almost called the police. Whose idea was this? Come on, tell me now. Who put you up to this? Did you do it alone?" I am terrified. I don't dare say that any of my friends were in on this, or I will never be able to see them again. "I did it. It was all my idea," I scream hysterically. That was the truth anyway. But I didn't dare tell her that Anna was with me. "Gee, damn it to hell, you little devil, you!" She continues to hold the belt up over me, perhaps cracking me a few more times. She continues her harsh tirade and tells me, "You are out of control. Do you know what they do with girls like you? The police take them and they put them in homes for delinquents until they're 18. They never see their family again. That's what I might have to do with you. Have you ever heard of that Ferris School for boys? They have one for girls, too, and they put them away. I should call the police on you now. You should be taken away and put up for adoption. We're going to have to find a foster home for you. You've made me the laughingstock of the neighborhood. Damn you, child." By now she is calling for my father. "Rodney, get in here and give this girl the medicine she deserves. She needs a good beating right from your hand." I am terrified. I can't remember my father ever laying a hand on me. Why, he would just say one quiet negative word to me and I'd want to cry. I was in total fear of his rejection. I always tried to do what he told me and never ever displease him. That would be a fate worse than death. But my mother was another story. I hated her and everything about her. I fought against her continually. I am screaming at her to go away and leave me alone, and am crying hysterically. I scream, "I hate you! I hate you! You are the worst mother in the world! I wish I were never born! I'm going to kill myself!" I fling myself in the bed and put my face into the pillow. She commands me to stop and tries to pull me up. We fight back and forth, and I keep putting my face in the pillow. Finally, she gets the pillow away from me, and I tell her that I will just hold my breath until I die. I begin. I don't fully recall the sequence of this drama. It is a blur of impressions involving a belt cracking on me, scathing verbal tirades, threats and profanity, physical altercation, and my hysterical crying and threats of self-harm. She was directing 100% of her fury toward me, and I hated her 100%. And to add to my emotional state, I had actually done something bad to provoke her this time. Even Mrs. Wilson had told me, "You should be ashamed of yourself." I don't know how long all this went on, but I do know that at some point my father stepped in and did something I rarely recall him ever doing, if not at all. He came into the room and strongly approached her with his hand up as if he were going to hit her, and he said, "That's enough, Margaret. Lay off of her now." Now the scene took a new twist, and it became something between the two of them. I don't remember if I stayed in the room or if I went and sat just outside. I remember that I could not stop crying, and I could not breathe right. Every breath seemed sudden and sharp, and was followed by a tumult of gasps, as if I couldn't fully exhale. I couldn't make it stop. I could not calm myself down from whatever emotional state I was in. I remember them arguing, and my father talking real sternly to her. She said to him, "That girl is threatening to kill herself. She's out of control. Just look what she did out there. She needs a good beating from you." He said to her, "You're the one around here that needs a good beating. You need to stop all this talk about foster care. This is the kind of thing that if you don't stop will cause her real problems when she grows up, and maybe even drive her to suicide. You've got to lay off of her. Get out of here, you G-damn son of a bitch. Get out of here now." She continues to speak harshly to him. "Rodney, you've got to straighten that girl out," he said. "I'll talk to her. You just get out of here." Somehow she left, and my father came to me. He said, "You know how she is. You can't be doing stuff like this. Now get a hold of yourself and calm down." "I can't," I cried, continuing to not be able to breathe right. I kept crying and saying, "I can't stop. I can't breathe." My father kept telling me, "Yes, you can. Just calm yourself down. Breathe deep. Just calm yourself down and keep taking deep breaths. It's over. She's gone now. You've got to get a hold of yourself now." He sat with me until I started breathing more normally and was starting to calm down. Then he told me to go put cold water on my face and come help him make dinner. "Just stay clear of her tonight," he said. I guess a story like this would not qualify as authentic neighborhood folklore, did it not converge with multiple versions of the event among those who had been involved. It is over 30 years later, and I decide to call my childhood friends to see how my memories line up with theirs. My biggest fear is that they will not have the slightest idea what I am referring to. Life is like a movie in which you get to play the part in a scene just once, experiencing the sequence of events with all its sights, sounds, and subtleties in moments of time, leaving you nothing but mental and emotional replay for years to come. In my recollection of this dirty, dastardly, dog-eat-doo drama, I was the comedic, evil mastermind of this plot, which I could only convince my friend Anna to help me carry out. She and I single-handedly perpetrated the ultimate prank on my mother, and I martyred full blame. And in my initial memories, my father did not discipline me over this. Yet as I read and reread my story, in the midst of one of the nth recordings, as I state that he never laid a hand on me, I am suddenly thinking that perhaps there was only one time, and I have this terrible feeling that maybe this was it. Perhaps 20 years ago I might have recounted this personal folklore as the only time he ever spanked me. But now, 20 years later, the legend I have created of him in my mind wouldn't permit me to remember it this way. That he too may have spanked me that day is such a traumatic, guilt-producing, depressing possibility. Why didn't I initially think it this way? Perhaps the reason I couldn't calm down was because he spanked me too. But maybe he only did it to satisfy her, and probably he barely tapped me. And I really doubt he would have used a belt. Maybe he just held his hand over me too, and I cried even more. Or maybe he held his hand over me and threatened to spank me if I didn't calm down. Perhaps he didn't think what I did was so horrible, and I know he thought it was funny. But his only recourse at that point was to act as referee and try to settle us both down. Such a variety of possibilities. I am becoming less and less certain. Perhaps even my initial story is in fact the way it went. I do remember his stern statements to my mother, and am associating them with this drama. What precisely happened can never be determined. But I know what was typical: the swearing at me and between them, the repeated threats to put me in a foster home because I was out of control, her control, and the sense of emotional guilt, anger, and confusion that she elicited in me. Perhaps even my father's responses were confusing to me at the time. So my story is my best educated guess at how it would have gone, coupled with some pretty clear memories. No doubt I was in on it, and no doubt my mother was beyond furious. Anna only remembers putting the mud in bags out in the street and cheering as cars ran them over. This only vaguely sticks in my mind as one thing we may have done that day. As we talked and I began to tell her the story as I remembered it, she laughed and said this would have tormented my mother. She remembers that my mother was very paranoid about dogs pooping in her yard. Anna says she would walk her dog, and my mother would come out to tell her to make sure he didn't poop in her yard. She informed her that she was collecting samples to send to the FBI, and would find out whose dog was doing it. Anna does not recall the mud incident, but she does describe my mother's paranoia to the T. Oddly, when I mention Mrs. Wilson to Anna, she says, "Who is she?" I remind her of Randy, Joe, and J.R., but she has no memory of them. My friend Stacy, however, was quick to recall other aspects of this long-ago summer day. I ask her if she remembers the time we made mud pies, and right away she says she does, and weren't we making doggy do? I mention that Anna couldn't remember it, nor could she remember the Wilsons. Of course Stacy remembers the Wilsons. Right off, she says that it was Randy, she and I that were in on it. It was a true-life conspiracy of the most vile kind. Just imagine, Mrs. Slifer's own daughter involved with the notorious Randy Wilson in a thick plot against her. We had a regular old poo factory going down at Stacy's house, with Randy rolling them up to look dried, and the three of us, not Anna, going back and forth to my mother's house. Stacy said we had them in the grass, on the driveway, and going up the steps. She claims my dad put an end to it and made us hose it down, but perhaps that was something later. In my mind, his amusement, coupled with the words which at the least contain the phrase, "You're going to have hell to pay when she gets home," are indelible in my mind. Stacy says that I wasn't a problem child, but my mother viewed me as such. She says that something had pushed me that day, that she recalls me being really angry at my mother for something. Otherwise, she says I probably wouldn't have done such a thing. That night at the family dinner table, Stacy remembers telling her parents what we had done. She says that they were appalled that we had done such a thing to my mother, but they could not stop laughing. They knew, as well as I, that it was the perfect torment for her. And as they rightfully enjoyed the utter amusement of the drama, 2 doors down, the problem child was sticking close to her father for the evening.